come here and spare their time. And especially like to thank Dr. Himanshu and his team for organizing this meet after, I think this is the first meet after the COVID hit all of us, and the last 2 years have been really miserable for at least our social lives. So I'd like to present a case which is a neglected operated Montegia fracture dislocation. So I had a 41-year-old male who was a right-hand dominant person, and by occupation he is a film director. He sustained an injury in a road traffic accident on May in 2019. After the injury, there was immediate pain of his right elbow, and he was taken to a nearby hospital in New Delhi and operated over there. He presented to us in June 2020, and he came in the OPD, and the complaint which he had was he had some subjective weakness in his forearm flexion, and he says that he had some instability while lifting objects. He had some difficulty in flexing the elbow beyond 85 degrees, and he said that he used to have some palpable hard mass which was anteriorly palpable over the elbow. Talking about his personal history, he is an alcoholic, a smoker, and a diabetic. So on examination, what we found was that there was an old heel scar mark of previous surgery, which was present posteriorly over the ulna. There was a hard bony mass which was palpated anteriorly. If we consider his range of motion, then the flexion of his elbow was from 0 to 85 degrees, supination was from 0 to 85, and pronation 0 to 70. There was no distal neurovascular deficit. So this is the X-ray which he came to us with. He had an open reduction internal fixation, which was done with plates and screws, and bone grafting was also done. So I think around 4 days after his injury, and it was done in New Delhi. So if you can see the X-ray and appreciate that this is almost around 1 year post-op from the initial index surgery, and you can see that there is atrophic non-union. The implant seems to be loose, and you can see probably there was some bone loss. That is why the primary surgeon had to put in some graft. So if you can appreciate that, there is some angulation also present due to the loosening of the implant, and because we need, even these X-rays, they are pretty deceptive, because if you see this way, this is not a proper lateral view, you can say in such a way, but if we the next thing we did was we took another lateral view, and you can see that the radial head has been lying dislocated, and it is has been dislocated anteriorly. And the duration of this radial head being dislocated was probably for around 10 months. Probably, this is just subject to base, because the patient came to us after almost about a year after his index procedure. So what is the causes of failure? If we try to learn from other people's or other surgeons' mistakes, this has often been said in the literature that the plate when we fix these Montegia fractures is often placed medially or laterally, which is not the tension side of the bone. If we can appreciate this lateral view, you can see that this is not the posterior surface of the ulna. So this has caused loosening of the implant, and you see that the proximal screws have become loose, and the apex posterior deformity leads to the subsequent dislocation of the radial head. So because we did not have, the patient did not have any post-op X-rays, immediate post-op X-rays, so we can't really comment whether the radial head was relocated at the time of the index surgery or not. But this was the way he presented to us. The other causes of failure is bone loss. So as we see that the forearms are not very large as compared to the weight-bearing bones in the lower limbs, and even a small butterfly fragment can cause problems in the stability of the fracture, even though we may like to put in probably a longer plate. And sometimes also, I've seen in the literature that surgeons have put in short plates, just two screws on either side of the fracture. So that also has to be dealt with. So if we look into the classification of Monteggia fractured dislocation, then Beddoes classification is one classification, and it is subdivided into four types. The case which we are talking about is the type 1 Beddoes classification, when the radial head goes anteriorly. In the type 2 Beddoes classification, the radial head goes posteriorly. In type 3, the radial head goes laterally, and in type 4, there is a fracture of both the radius and the ulna, and subsequent dislocation of the radial head. The other classification which is commonly used is the Jupiter's classification. How would you like to manage such a case? So this is sort of a treated Monteggia, and it presents obviously after it has presented to us after a long time, probably a year after his initial injury. So ideally, to plan our surgery better, a 3D CT scan of the right elbow and the forearm would give us clue as to how and where is the position of the radial head in a three-dimensional view. So how would you like to address the non-union of the ulna? And what about the chronic dislocation of the radial head? So if we talk about the literature, then the literature suggests that we can do an ulnar osteotomy or ulnar lengthening, open reduction, internal fixation if the patient comes in a very early stage, and open reduction of the radial head. But open reduction of the radial head has been known to have certain complications, such as posterior interosseous nerve injury, elbow stiffness after any open reduction. Heterotopic ossification is very common in, or myositis ossificans is very common in injuries around the elbow joint. Some people suggest that you just excise the radial head after a particular amount of time. Surgery may also lead to radioulnar synostosis if the size of the screws is improper, or sometimes there is some communication, especially in cases where in Beddoes 4, where both the radius and the ulna have been fractured. Other problem which I think most surgeons experience, especially with olecranon fractures or proximal ulnar fractures, are that once you put the plate, these plates sometimes, although per se they are low profile, but still patients tend to complain of hardware prominence. And what is the other way in which we can deal this case? So this is what I did. We removed the plate initially, opened the non-union side, put in some K-wire and the drill on both the sides of the fracture side, refreshed the margin slightly, put in a TENS nail, and then we used the Ilizarov fixator. So this has been also written in the literature that it is a very unique and a beautiful way of trying to reduce the radial head by close reduction. So what we did was that after we put in the Ilizarov, we used the olive wires. So if you can see the initial X-ray, you can see that the radial head has gone anteriorly. So we tried to put an olive wire so that we could gradually reduce this radial head down. Second thing, what we did was, you can see this angulation, because this fracture is an old and sort of a neglected injury. So there are a lot of soft tissues which are attached to the bone, and this anterior angulation which occurs, we tried to correct this with another olive wire. You can see this in this X-ray. So the radial head has been addressed by one olive wire over here. This is another olive wire, and we try to stabilize it with another olive wire at the distal end of the ulna. And then you have to assemble the frame in such a way that there are threaded rods and there are slotted rods which have a place in which the olive wire can pass through, and then you can gradually distract this. And because we're not trying to cause any distraction of osteogenesis per se, which is the usual method needed for laser off, so we can go up to 2 millimeters per day to try to bring this radial head down. So this is the post-op day 2 of the same patient. You can see that currently the radial head is still anteriorly, but we've started the distraction. This is the way by which we try to bring the radial head down. So this is post-op day 3. We've used a carbon ring, which is very essential for trying to visualize, because with an Ilizarov fixator, there's so much of metal, it sometimes becomes very difficult to assess where and how your reduction is going. Then after a couple of days, which was probably the 5th or 6th day, we again took the patient for surgery, and this was because now we plan to do a bone grafting for this patient. You can see that we put in a bone graft chunk over here to address the non-union of the ulna. So another thing which probably the senior surgeons have experienced, but this was the first time for me. What we did was, because we had to take a bone graft from the anterior iliac crest, and this site had already been used by the previous surgeon. So when we tried to, because the amount of bone is not so large that we go posteriorly for taking the bone graft. So we use the same iliac crest area, and what we found was bone wax. So just observation, I wouldn't like to say, but even after 10 months of the primary surgery, this bone wax, which was initially put by the primary surgeon, it felt like very chalkish. It was like very chalky type of and a waxy type of feeling, and you can see that it does not disintegrate. And as if certain surgeons do apply bone wax at the primary site, then it's always suggested that you use a very thin layer rather than using the entire peg which comes. So in order to assess our reduction, we went in for a 3D CT scan. This is a post-op. So you can see that the radial head has come into the capitellar groove, slightly subluxated, probably by a millimeter or so. And this is the other view, and you can see that the radiocapitellar groove, the joint has been reduced. And the beauty of Ilizarov fixator is that we've done it in a by-close reduction. So this is another view. You can see that this is the olive wire which was passed. It's a 3D CT scan, and the radiocapitellar joint has been reduced in a very beautiful manner. So this is the follow-up after 1.5 months, and you can see that everything looks to be in place. This is in after 2.5 months, and the external fixator was finally removed after 3 months of surgery. So this patient, he was on an external fixator, which is a Ilizarov external fixator, for 3 months. So this is a video in which you can see this is the pre-op range of motion. This is how he's able to mobilize even with the Ilizarov fixator, and this is post-op 7 months. So this is a 14 months follow-up, and you can see that the ulna is uniting. We've seen signs of florid callus formation, maybe some amount of delayed union also. But if you see the previous X-rays, I think it's still going into union. This is the follow-up at 1.5 years. I really wanted to show this video completely. And this gentleman, as I told you, he's a film director. He's trying to dance on Dil Diya Galla. कच्ची डोरियों 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 से मैनू तू So he's a happy patient, and we are so happy to treat him. So thank you everyone. Thank you for a patient hearing. It's been really nice to sort of bring this case in front of you and in front of the esteemed family. Thank you so much.
Was the surgeon also dancing after this?
It's true.
Dance in our room, that's it. So this gentleman is a very dramatic fellow. I wouldn't like to share his personal history as well, but yes, he's a one of a kind. Any questions?
Any question to now?
Is that matter because Allah is a static bone? Is that it does matter where you put the plate on the tensile side or the compressor side? It's a static bone. Only the Allah radius moves. Allah is a static bone. So does it matter? And Dr. Rajiv is here. Sir, what is your take on using a user?
It does matter.
It was an excellent case, sir. Fantastic case. Only one observation, so you distracted us through the non-union side.
It is not there. What we did was initially, because we had to stabilize the ulna, so we took out the plate, and because we had already decided that we will be using the Elizarov external fixator. So if we try to use another plate, there would be no place where, how we could try to address it. Secondly, we didn't want to put in a lot of metal in the sense, inside the site again, and cause again stripping and all. And anyways, it was our mode of sort of treatment. Secondly, what I was saying was that the critical point is that how you put in that Elizarov wire on the radial head. See, and if you are able to visualize somewhere in your mind how we do it, in a pre-operative way, and then you try to bring it down. So if you see in the Elizarov, they have some rods, and in the rods, what you will do is sometimes there's a hole as well. So those are special rods. So you try to somehow. So this is sort of a trick, and it takes time. I've learned all my Elizarov from my father. Thank you so much.